Let me tell you guys, Marimo, Jamie, Blanca, how are you? Hi, Gemma. It has been okay. So since Thursday, good morning. It has been an absolute wild ride out here in these internet streets, right? Which has shifted, pardon me. Hi, Mia, which has shifted some of our conversations. So I am still actually trying to align with what I told you guys September was going to be about. But obviously, with the deeper conversations that are happening, I think that it's imperative to shift with what's going on, right? Because it's like we could stick to the lesson plan, people, or we can find the lessons in what's happening here. Um, so it's been interesting. It's been interesting. It has been interesting trying to keep up with it all. And today is the first uh, field trip of the year, and it's just interesting. It's just all interesting. Hello, Heather. Good morning, Zena. So, anywho, if you are new here, it is Monday. I am Desiree B. Stevens, and I pathologize systems of life. So, on Mondays, the articles are open for all. The podcast, which is this, open for all. And how the format usually is I have 3 points, 3 reframes, and 3 reflections to sit down and think about. That is the way that I choose to educate. I want people to think about things because I don't know everybody's positionality. I don't know where everybody's landing, right? So it's like, here's some things that I'm going to offer you. You sit with that and you do what you will with it. But I am woefully behind. I'm not going to pretend, right? And I'm not necessarily behind, but I am definitely not on schedule in regard to what our conversations are supposed to be. This topic here, which is why white comfort is not liberation, was supposed to be like last week's topics. You also like to listen to my music in the morning. But all of these things happen. If you are again new here, hey Carolyn. The intent for September was supposed to be this really fun um view through the Gilded Age. I loved it. When I was taking my break, I watched it. I binged all 3 seasons and was like, ooh, this would be amazing, right? Because I wanted to show us what the Gilded Age has taught us and how things have not really changed, right? And we are in the era of our own Gilded Age, right? Like when I looked at Jeff Bezos's wedding and then the Vanderbilt's wedding, and if you've seen this show, you could see this, right? Like this extreme performance of wealth and this abject poverty happening at the same time, whilst also, racism is amping up, right? You have at this point in time, you're going to be having the reclamation of the South, like we're taking this back, and the rise of the Klan, and all of these things that are happening simultaneously. And I'm like, ooh, this would be a great marriage to have a conversation about. And then all hell broke loose with the murder of Charlie Kirk and those conversations. And I'm still building conversations around them, because more things are coming in. With the shooter comes from a very far right Republican family, supporters of Trump, but apparently the child shoot the he's 22, he's a child. The child shooter was, dating a trans person and was more left leaning. So now all of this is happening. So it's all a lot, guys. A lot of things are happening, right? And I was like, okay, let me choose the topic to talk about today. And that is where I landed on why white comfort is not liberation. And why I think that that is important is because people keep having conversations like this race war is coming, this race war. And I'm like, the race war has never not existed, right? Because what white body people need to recognize is the race war is internal. Okay. It's going to be, and it is about what kind of white you are, right? At first, when Charlie Kirk was murdered, I was like, maybe he was murdered for not being, extreme enough, right? Because if you listen to him, because I am somebody who tries to keep myself in spaces, I'm on Parler, I'm on Twitter. I'm on social media with Trump's Truth Media, right? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go listen to what Turning Point USA has, is offering and what's going on there. And if you listen to him, he's actually not right enough, which should be terrifying to you, white body people. Okay, he's not right enough. To help you unwind, to help you refocus. Sit with so many things. This man is not right enough. He is not extreme enough for the very far right. And I often tell white body people, the birth canal of whiteness is the alt right. You're moving away from that, right? And this child it shows that. You have to move away from that. But you were born into the birth canal of alt right whiteness. That is its foundation. That is its mother, right? And if you are somewhere else, if you are centrist, if you're a leftist or what have you, and I don't even mean in political view, in your just daily ideologies of life and how you live, you've just moved further away. But that is the birthplace of whiteness. When you think about it as the creation of race, right? You need it to be cis, hetero, wealthy, Christian, able bodied, property owner, all of those things had to exist, right? In order for you to be the upper echelon of white. I often talk about the hierarchies of whiteness. I am actually, I'm building out a quiz. Because I like quizzes. I'm building out a quiz so you can see where you are in the world of white. But like there's a hierarchy that happens inside of whiteness, right? And white body people are able to perform that. Have loner gear. Right. If you are or have been poor and white, you could let go of whatever accent it is, right? If you are country and white, right? Code switching was invented by white people so that they could perform whiteness. You can move up, you could work hard and, catapult into the pyramid scheme of whiteness, but you'll never reach the top because that's how pyramid schemes work. So all of that being said, the conversation about white comfort is important. And I really do the work of working with white body people because I need you guys to move beyond anti-racism. Yay! Like that was step one, right? At least you're at an awareness that racism is systemic and it's not personal. I don't care what somebody thinks about me. It makes me, no, actually, what you think about me is none of my business. Doesn't matter to me. What you can vote on in regard to my life, right? If you could limit my movements, if you could limit my opportunities in housing, if you could limit my opportunities in work opportunities, if you could limit my school district, if you could limit my liberties. Seems like that is systemic racism and that is a problem. And that is step one, right? Step two is recognizing my infamous question, who were you before you were white? That's because there are endless places that could access. And ask yourself that question. Because before you were white and forced into being the right kind of white, you had indigeneity. You belonged to a land, you had spiritual practices, and a culture all your own that was stolen from you. Alexa, stop. Becoming white was a forced and very violent process. And I need white body people to grieve that, right? Because when we get into this lesson in regard to white comfort not equaling liberation, it is always race is always a factor. Like that is because this is inescapable, right? Like there's just no way for me to hide or any other Black person. And then obviously the more Black you look, seem, appear, yada, 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 the harsher these systems impact you, right? I benefit, I talk about that all the time, from colorism, which is I'm fairer skin, texturism, my hair is of a softer texture, featureism, all of those things, right? My proximity to whiteness. I have an Irish mother who that was reclassified as white. So I have a white mother, friends, family, etc. All of those things matter because you have XY access. Also working on that one, right? Hierarchies of whiteness and all of this here. Classism impacts white bodies the way racism impacts Black bodies. So now that we have a functional foundation in regard to this, I want you to take a breath. Shake it off, shake it off. Drink some water, hot tea, whatever. I have missed my coffee today, so this is me before coffee. when I When I'm done here, I'll go get some coffee. But all of that is, I want you to come into this space, into this lesson, into this understanding, like remove us from that, right? Because unfortunately, you guys seem to need us in order to process, right? Like that's the juxtaposition. As long as we exist to be more oppressed than you, you're not dealing with your own oppression. As long as we exist to be more than anything in this system, you're not dealing with your own internal systems. And that is a problem, right? It is, you are comparing McDonald's to like Burger King. And like, that's cool. I get it, right? Because that's competitive and you need to know what's going on with Burger King, but that's not going to do a damn thing for your internal systems at McDonald's, right? So let's work on your org chart and your internal systems and how that's working. So when we move into this, I want you to think about it from that perspective. If you're a white-bodied person, right? I want you to, you do not need to imagine what's happening with Black bodies, Black people, Black community, or anything. I need you to actually internalize what's happening in your own space. And when we think of white, right? I want it to go beyond just skin color, right? I want you to think about how that impacts you, right? White as in cis, right? Which means you align with your birth identity, right? That they've given you, your sexual assignment at birth. I was born and given the assignment of female. I am a cisgendered female. I agree with the assignment offered. That is cis. Hetero, that means none of the funny stuff, okay? And none of that. Only boys and girls as assigned, right? Not trans people. Says hetero, able-bodied, no disabilities, nothing. You are good. You're great to go. You have no impairments. No, you are not neurodivergent. That all of those things, right? Because all of that starts knocking you down in those. So you have cis, hetero, able-bodied. You are wealthy. If you understand that, right? And I don't mean in juxtaposition to the poor. Okay. Because that's another thing that people do. It's like, oh, well, you are middle class because you are comparing yourself to the bottom rung. That is not wise. Ask yourself, are you middle class compared to the billionaires? Okay. That's in the top pyramid scheme of whiteness. You are not. You are poor. Okay. Good job. All of those things. All right. So keep that in mind. Drink some water. Move your bodies. Why white comfort is not liberation. Okay. 3 talking points. 1, comfort protects systems, not people. 2, liberation demands disruption, right? Like what I just offered you is a disruption in your thought process, right? I need you to be comparing yourselves, if you are a white-bodied person listening to this, to the top tier white. Do not compare yourself to the most oppressed person, because of course you're doing good. 1, you're white. You're automatically doing better racially. Right? Don't compare yourself to the poor person. You're obviously doing better, right? 75% of Americans don't have $400 in the bank. That- That's a terrible comparison. Understand what I'm saying? Think about that. So, liberation demands disruption. 3, comfort creates illusions of progress, right? See, you've already gotten into that. If you are comparing yourself to poor people, of course, I think I'm doing great too. You know, I own my house. I got a cool little RV that hangs out in the backyard. I got a tiny house that I was able to build for my daughter. Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm doing wonderful. But in order for me to believe that I'm doing wonderful, I need to compare myself to a person that's doing worse or doing less than. And not only that, in order for me to feel good about my progress, I need them to continue doing bad. Sit with that truth. In order for me to feel good about my progress in life, right? As the great grandchild of enslaved people, as a grandchild of immigrants, in order for me to feel I have done well in life, right? College educated, I'm a homeowner, I'm good in certain aspects. But in order for me to feel like I have done well and I've progressed, that means I have to compare myself to someone doing worse, and I need them to continue to do worse. Because if that's right, because water meets its level, if this person rises up to here, what am I comparing it to? Who am I doing better than? All of a sudden, my progress doesn't seem like much progress if this person is able to achieve that. Okay? That's how these things work. right? But if I'm looking to the top tier of this pyramid scheme, I realize how absolute shit life is, right? And that should make you want to dismantle it, right? As long as you're looking down on someone, you're never looking at up on who's above you. And who's above you are pulling the strings. Okay, let's round it back. One, comfort protects systems, not people. White comfort, again, defining white as cis, hetero, Christian, able bodied, wealthy, all of those things, yummy, 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 generationally so. White comfort has historically been prioritized over Black liberation, from Reconstruction to the civil rights movements to today's civility politics. The calls for peace or unity are often masked as a demand for silence, not justice. But Desiree, you said focus on white people. Of course, because you're white, and I want you to focus on white people. However, it goes back to the thing. It's always the underlying. Race is always the underlying. Because after these systems of degradation, harm, colonization moved from the shores of England and Europe, right, where you're talking about majority white body people who they've already done this for. Stand by. Ingrid said that comparison point is giving something to think about for real. Awesome. I love that, Ingrid, right? When they got to the shores of Virginia, I was like, oh, shit. How do we separate people here? Right? Because now you're not in Ireland where you could be like the Protestants versus the Catholics. There's always been a difference, right? You know, they pathologize what white people look like too, right? Like, you know, they had their own little ways, right? And if it weren't the way they looked, right, it was definitely religion. And the Irish are the lowest rung in the whites. So, and it was Protestant versus Catholic then. But then when everybody came here and we're like, oh, what are we going to do? And they are pushing the indigenous people out and they are shipping Africans in, they created race. So because that's the foundation, that's always going to be the foundation, right? Because that's always the point. But what I'm talking about for this to be embodied learning, if you are white people, do not think about Black people. Like I'm just going to give you for you to feel this, for it to sit in your body, you are not in community with enough Black people to actually give a damn, realistically speaking. But you are in community with white body people. You do understand the difference between being a good white, a bad white, a wealthy white, white trash. You understand all of these systems that exist within your spaces. So I want you to think about it in that way. It can become embodied whilst I still give you the full breath of it. Ingrid said, I think of gratitude practice and how one could say, I have heat, running water, etc., and how you're grateful that you're better off than others. Right. Like for me, it's like everybody should have what I have. Like this is like I have my basic needs are met, right? I have a home, I have a vehicle, I have the ability to buy food. These are basics. This is not, yeah, I'm fucking doing amazing compared to somebody under a bridge. I'm doing amazing compared to someone who doesn't have a home. Like, of course, right? You know what I'm saying? I could change my clothes seasonally. I can go on a vacation once a year with my kids. I could afford children. Amazing comparatively. And that is what we don't want to. We want to move away from that because what I am saying should be basic, right? We are not starting at deprivation. The things that I just stated, when you think about when you think about our grandparents, right? And the boomers, and they weren't special. They weren't top tier whites. I was just talking to a friend. I was like, yo, like you're talking about a car salesman being able to buy a home and a white picket fence, have a wife at home, two kids, and a dog, and go on vacation once a year. He sells cars. These are not even highly educated people. We're not even talking about, even still, I think there's only like 1.7% of the United States Americans have a PhD. So we're not talking about highly educated people. You're talking about a low-level job, a sales job. How many salesmen you know today can have those basic needs, have a home, feed a family of four, and go on vacation and have a pet? I know highly educated people that could barely afford living. Do you know what I'm saying? So we got to put it all in perspective like that. Okay, so white comfort has historically been prioritized over Black liberation. We came to that, right? And why that's important is, like I said, because that is the lowest rung And when white people can compare themselves to a Black person, here's what I always tell you guys. When you watch things, when you see something, you're able to take a breath and take a pause and say, at least I'm not Black. And that's got to stop, right? Because, Jane Elliott made that shit so popular. And I cannot stand her or her philosophies because at the end of the day, Jane Elliott has been doing this work 40 years or some odd. Not much has changed. And all she's done was made an entire living off of Black pain and trauma. And that sounds about white to me. All right. I want to walk into a room and I want to ask a bunch of white people who wants to be poor and white, who wants to be white trash. That's the question to ask yourself. Because the way you guys treat each other is absolutely horrific. So until you guys can heal that, I don't believe that you care about others, right? The fact that you can walk over your own who are hungry, who are dealing with meth addictions, right? Who don't have access, right? Who also live in food deserts. I don't believe you. I just don't believe you. I think that what you want to do, I think you believe you, right? I think you believe that you want to do good in the world. And I believe that you do. I believe that you think that you're a good person and you're a better person because you care about Black people. But I'm concerned at why you don't care about poor white people. White women also don't have access to health care. White children are also living in abject poverty. Do you know in South Georgia, people still have dirt floors? It's 20 fucking 25, right? I'm concerned why you don't care about people in the trailer park. But you want me to believe you care about my babies. I don't believe you. I just don't. And I want you guys to start really dealing with some internal systems to do the deep grief work of what colonization has done to your white body and how it has fractured whiteness. Because again, as I said at the top of this, the race war is going to be internal. We did y'all see that Fantasia did a remix to Boots on the Ground? Baby, we outside. We're not doing this with y'all. We told you over and over again what was going to happen. Nobody listened to us. And the 92% of Black women and the 78% of Black men are resting. we're not we're not getting into this, right? They were praying to God that shooter was Black and wasn't. A child of their own creation. Okay? The race war is internal. So please stop trying to ruffle the feathers and make us more afraid to exist. We've been existing around this violence of whiteness since you guys drug us here. We're going to be fine. Some will die, some will survive. That has been the plight of the displaced African since, colonialism found us. That is just what it is. You guys need to focus on what the hell's happening internally because there's going to be more of this violence, this race war, right? I tasked white body people the other day on my Facebook post. I said, I want you guys to look up the violence of the Klan against other white people. I'm not somebody, I've never been the educator that pours out Black trauma. You won't see it. You won't hear it from me because I don't think that it impacts you. I don't think that it matters. I think that, like I said, you will see it. It will be awful. You will feel sadness. You will feel shame. I think you go through this gambit of human emotions and then you take that breath and say, at least I'm not Black. So I want you guys to start internalizing the horrors and the violence of whiteness and how it impacts and has impacted white bodies. We see it now. We see it now. That is a race war. Somebody getting murdered because of their fascist ideas is a race war. Now, be it that he wasn't right enough or he was too right. Either way, that's an internal white issue that needs to be dealt with. Tina says, I feel the same as the 92%. That's why I'm fed up with people who look like me. I tried to warn them. They don't listen. Yes, but it's still your job. Right? Like it's like we gotta survive. See, because here's what white body people could do. You guys can straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right. You guys can mask. Right? If you are visibly queer, you know what I mean, right? Like if you got the fucking blue hair and the septum piercings and all of the fucking weirdo shit, hey man, dye your shit back and talk differently, and that's horrible, right? But that is assimilation, and that is part of what your ancestors went through, right? In order to have forefathers, you had to give up your ancestors. That is what assimilation looks like. It looks like falling into the fold, right? If you are a trans white body person, you know what you're able to do? Stop transitioning. Is that violent? Yes, that's my point. That's my point. Is that violence of whiteness impacts you guys first, right? But you could detransition. You can go, I've seen the light, right? You could stop being a witch. Right? Go clear your crystals, get rid of your tarot cards, and get you a Jesus piece in the name of the Lord. And you have been found and redeemed, right? Whiteness, as in how I described it, as that top tier in that pyramid, allows redemption for white body people. You know what we can't do as non white people? That, any of it, because none of it matters. None of it matters. We're still Black. That's why the foundation is always that. So it is, unfortunately, your job. You could be tired of white people. We're tired of white people too. like, nobody's more tired than us. But those are your folks. And there is something to be said about that, right? Like that's community. They're your folks. We're tired. There's Black people I'm tired of too. You know I'm fucking tired of? I cannot stand Black hoteps. Oh God, they make my ass itch. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't like, hey, how you're doing it is that's your business, right? But they are a small faction. You know what they're not doing? They're not bombing Jewish schools. They're not out there. They're talking shit and eating bean pies. And they're not actually harming anybody. And we do not feed into that. Foundational Black Americans exhausted. And we consistently talk back to these groups of people. And we're like, absolutely not. We're not going to erase the indigenous. There are conversations to be had on whether the indigenous of this land, how many of them were reclassified to Negroes, especially when the $5 Indians, the white ones, came and bought their way onto the Dawes rolls. And all. There's a lot of nuanced conversation. You know what we're still doing? Talking to them. Again, you know what they're not doing? Rounding up indigenous people and killing them. Whiteness is not something that you get tired of. It is something you dismantle and eradicate. And that's not saying white body people. I want you guys to dismantle the system of whiteness and get back to who you were before you were white. Whiteness is killing y'all and in turn killing everybody else, right? Because we wind up being the sacrifice, not even the sacrifice. We wind up being cannon fodder. We're the side effects, right? And we are what keeps you guys distracted. Because again, if you are comparing yourself to the person that has it the worst, and I say this all the time, I'm not looking to be the top tier oppressed. Like, I don't want a medal. I just don't want to be oppressed. Just like that. Tiffany says, yes, I read a book on the KKK a couple of years ago and had no idea. Oh, yeah. I talked about this for years on TikTok, right? And I would come and I would discuss, and I would be like, you need to pay attention. You know what white men used to do with white women who they thought were race traders? Rape them. Because rape is a white man's invention for power, period. It's always been about power. Not only him, he'd have his buddies run through her, his wife, his mama, his sister. Didn't matter. They felt you were a traitor. That's some sick shit, right? That's some sick shit. And when you realize that, right? And then obviously that makes sense, of course, right? Because they force bred us. So it's like, yeah, if you could do that to your own mother, force breeding Black people, like making all of us rape each other inside of breeding plantations. Yeah. Because you could do that to people that look like you. You could do that to people who loved you, cared for you. Like, of course, the inhumanity is just, there. It's internal. You guys have got to deal with that grief. What is colonization taken from you? And it is your utter and complete humanity to look at another who looks like you and actually give a damn and wanting to live so individualistically, you will separate yourself from them. And it's like, okay, but to the global majority, you're all the same. I don't know, right? Same way white women say all men till no men. I'm watching even with the Charlie Kirk, I feel bad for his wife. Or I've seen a few comments, which is wild to me because I'm like, what are you thinking about? Well, his wife and daughter are better off without him. What? That's his partner. You act like she didn't know. The victimhood in whiteness and white womanhood is absolutely wild. White women are not some captives being drug off of the tower like some cavemen into the cave. They are willingly walking hand in hand down the aisle. This woman has her own merch line. She has her own podcast talking the same shit her husband's on. He wasn't even dead 48 full hours, and she was doing a press conference, homie, talking about threatening, because that was a threat. No tears in sight. If you think my husband's message was something when he was alive, watch what you see when he's dead. Girl, please, she's running that show. Like, y'all really have got to, there's a lot to unpack, a lot. Tina says, now I just want to stay away. I understand, Tina. I don't want to stop being a witch. Yeah, then you better fight back or they're going to burn you. Because again, white on white violence, like it's crazy. The pathology, the way how this started when I first started on TikTok, and I was like, hi, I'm Desiree B. Stevens and I pathologize whiteness, is because Blackness has always been pathologized. It's so simple and it's so easy because again, back to I'm doing great. I'm in my backyard getting paid to educate. Am I almost $30,000 a year for my Substack? I'm proud of myself. I'm getting paid in my back. That's amazing, right? There's people that's not making $30,000 a year and they're up at 4 o'clock in the morning out the door and have to figure out childcare, food, all of the things, and renting. I'm doing fucking amazing. I'm doing work that I love with people I care about, and I do it at my leisure. If I don't show up at 9:30, no one is going to say anything. I'm just going to be here and you'll catch the replay later, right? Like I have an amazing life, but I want that for everybody. It's not, it's compared to what, right? Time privilege is something that is absolutely amazing. So in that, I am extremely wealthy, right? But I want us to think about how we have to compare ourselves to others, right? How we need other people to be having it worse in order for us to feel good about our lives. The sickness is deep. Good morning, Dinah. Okay. Goodness, I'm already over my time. Lord. Okay. These conversations are so yummy. Okay. So we covered the one, and I wanted to give the reflections, right? So I wanted you to ask yourself, where in my life am I prioritizing another's comfort over truth, right? Like, who are you trying to make comfortable here? Who? And who is it benefiting? Over actual truth. Like what I'm saying right now is actual truth. It may be uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable, right? It is 100% uncomfortable to really turn around and say, damn, we do treat our own people like that, right? We really do say this person's good or that person's bad. Like it just like we could see it like, all of a sudden now it's like if it's not one, it's another. It's MAGA versus the Democrats and the liberals, and all of that is code for white. Okay, like let's get that out there. All of that is code for different type of white. What kind of white are you? So that goes right back to, like I said, the race war is internal. What kind of white are you? I want you to really think about this and reframe these things. You guys literally needed bracelets. That blue bracelet shit was not about Black people, and I said that. I'll put the allyship blue bracelet article into this replay. Those blue bracelets were so you guys can identify which white people you were safe around. Okay? Y'all were allies to each other. That blue bracelet don't tell me shit. You could take that off. You could turn around and move in a way that I cannot. You could take that blue bracelet. I don't see nobody in some blue bracelets now. That was cute and it was quick. But understand that that was an identifier for you guys to see which white people you were safe against, okay? Because those white folks are voting against you. They don't care about us. We're not even on the radar. Okay, taking away the rights when y'all be like, oh, women, it's always been all women, but white women did not give a damn. Okay. But now all of a sudden, and we kept telling you guys that. I told you guys that in 2016. I was like, they want white babies. They want to take away all your rights so you could be stuck with them. They're going to take away all the social safety nets so you are stuck with your white men. Yeah. Yeah. Because the only power that cis, hetero, Christian, wealthy, able-bodied patriarchy, Christian patriarchy, understood and understands is power over. right? When you're starting to see the divorce things rise, it didn't trigger them to be like, oh, I should be a better partner. I should be a better father. I should be a better person. It triggered them to be like, oh shit, how do we get our power back? You guys are about to be stuck, right? You're going to have to choose. You're going to have to make choices. Like Black folks, Black women are leaving. We're like, well, we'll co-live, we'll co-parent, we'll start a village. Like, we're not doing this shit. Black men thought that they were part of the patriarchy. We left their ass. Like, absolutely not, sir. You got me fucked up. Okay. I'm not about to sit down and play this game with you when we got off that same boat and been working side by side in the same fields. We did not fight to work. White women fought for the right to work. We're fighting for the right to keep our asses at home. We've been working. Okay. White women. It was actually illegal for Black women not to work, thanks to white women. There's a lot, okay? And again, it goes right back to always making it, somebody has to be having it worse than you. And that is a whole problem, right? When you talk about the history of whiteness and indentured servitude, and when Africans came along, now known as Black people, it was a breath, it was a pause. And I get it. I get it. 900 years of indentured servitude and war happening in Europe. Christianization, crusades, violent colonization, white violence. And then when you finally have somebody else, oh, so I don't have to be an indentured servant. We have enslaved people. Oh, I don't have to do this. They could do that. Yeah. But here we are. And that's that violence of whiteness. Okay. So the reframe for number one, liberation requires risk. Right? You have to go from comfort to courage. I get it. It's not easy, right? That's why we're here. That's why we're building community. That's why we're doing this work, is so we could begin to get uncomfortable, right? And do the work of liberation. Part of a lot of what I am trying to guide and teach you guys is how to make intentional intersectional communities, because this is a system of violence and abuse. It's no different than a DV situation, right? It takes a woman on average 7 times to leave domestic violence situations. You know why? They're afraid to be judged. There's no real safety spaces. Where can I go? Who can I trust? All of those things. You are asking white people to leave the comfort of what they have known. White people, liberal white people, democratic white people. You are asking what MAGA, white women, 72%, I think it was, of white women to leave the comfort of what they've known and offer them nothing. You're just calling them names and calling them out and never calling them in. Never saying, listen, I get it, I understand, but here, you're safe here with me. And in that, we wind up getting the brunt of this insanity of this internal war of whiteness. 2, liberation demands disruption. True liberation is uncomfortable. It asks for accountability. It asks for risk. It asks for a dismantling of privilege, whatever that privilege may be, right? Like I said, I have time privilege. Some people have financial privilege. There's others with racial privilege. There's a lot. There's cis hetero privilege. There's a lot of various different privileges, right? So many. So, the dismantling of privilege. If white comfort is the standard, the work stops when feelings are hurt rather than when systems are charged, right? Because you want to stay safe within a system, and there is no safety, right? That is a false peace. That is a false peace. That is a right to comfort. I want you guys, I will also link those 15 pillars of supremacy culture. I have an ebook. It's Pay What You Can. And it comes with a cool little thing you can print out and put it out. I think I'm going to put it on magnets. But anyway, I want you to do that so you can stop taking things personal and make it systemic, right? You feel comfortable because that feels safe. We all have a right to feel safe. I get it. Okay. Who is not safe? Who's not safe? Who's not? I had a conversation years ago when with Gaza, Palestine, and I was like, white people, you need to be careful with the conversations that you're having because you are being very anti-Semitic. And it's crazy considering you are a settler colonialist here in this land. But be mindful. I had someone come into my comment section. They happened to be a white Jewish woman who did not look Jewish, which was part of my conversation. And she was like, oh, that's anti-Semitic. I was like, I didn't get that definition. Okay. I need you to unpack that. I recognize that it is born from anti Semitism, right? But I did not describe what Jewish people look like. I did not say that. Whiteness did. And I want you to think about the most vulnerable white person in your group. This was a blonde haired, blue eyed white woman. I'm like, if you took off your high, nobody would know. That's forced assimilation. I was like, but what about Hasidic Jews? What about those deemed Jewish by white supremacist values, right? I'm from New York City. You're not going to just pass Jewish people that have been coded as Jewish by white supremacy past me and I not recognize that. This is what I mean about deal with it internally with white body people, right? Because there are, even in your own groups, there are people who will be able to assimilate and there will be those that won't and who will be harmed. And Black people are always on the chopping block because there's no assimilation for us. Okay. That is, that's internal. That is what I'm talking about. That is what I mean by disrupt those systems. See who's in your own group that's most vulnerable. What about those who are trans in your group that are clockable? I know that that's not a comfortable word, but it's true. If you look like you are a dude in a dress, you are unsafe, even if you are white. That is what I'm talking about. You need to disrupt that. This is not a utopian situation. And those are those internal things. That is that race war that is already happening. That has really never ceased to happen. It's always existed. Mia says, my 2 marriages prior with DV, I had my parents to land back with both times. A few years later, we hooked up with a shelter and an org to provide toiletries. Toiletries and shelters is not given. That mind-blowing. That is what? Insane, right? I am somebody like when I have my truck bed full. And that's where I try to go give my clothes, right? If I'm aware that there's a shelter somewhere, I will just drop it off in front of there and go. Toiletries are super important. There is a woman, Mama T, she's amazing, in our neighborhood, and she puts together purses. That's another thing that you could do, right? She'll put together little baggies and hand them out with sanitary napkins, toiletries, and all of those sorts of things. Because, yeah, imagine going somewhere to a shelter and you can't wipe your ass or wash. These systems are broken, even when they call themselves helping people. But yes, right, to that point is the idea of I think, at least Mia, and absolutely correct me, it's like, yeah, hey, go to a shelter. Like that feels very, liberal or democratic to the MAGA people. Oh, well, go to a shelter. Yeah, but I can't wipe my ass there. So I'm gonna stay right here. Okay. Where I could shower, I can enjoy nice scented things, right? So if you're talking about building true community, if you're talking about dismantling systems of privilege, then you have to recognize that you have to create that, right? You have to create that. You want people to leave this alt-right birth canal of whiteness, then you damn sure have to be creating a space that they can come to and wash their ass. Mia, let me know if that was the analogy. Okie dokie, Smokies. 3. I'm trying, guys. I'm trying. Did I do 3? Did I do 2? Did I do 2? I did do 2. I've spoke past it. I've lost my place. Yes? Good. I'm glad. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I was picking up what you were putting down. All right. 3. Comfort creates illusions of progress. I touched on that where it's like, oh, well, you're doing so good. Yes, of course I'm doing so good in comparison to a person doing worse than me. I want to compare myself to Bezos. Okay. And if we believe that billionaires should not exist, then maybe gloating about your middle class. I bet a person under the bridge doesn't think you should exist because you are just as oppressive to them as Bezos is to the world, right? So we have got to shift our lens from the lowest to the highest, right? Look to the hills. Aim there. Okay. That's what needs to be dismantled, right? And as long as you are being placated by doing better than, right? Better than whatever, insert, right? I'm doing better than a poor person. I'm doing better than a Black person. I'm doing better than a disabled person. I'm doing better than whatever that person is. You're going to stay comfortable. That's white comfort, right? Because it's not so bad. And that's usually where the white liberal lies. And I say this over and over again. What happens with the white liberal is the last two generations, you guys have been semi successful. And that is quite literally only because Black people were disenfranchised through redlining and the refusal of offering Black GIs the ability to also move to the suburbs the way they offered it to white GIs. That is literally why your middle class exists at the exclusion of Black people who also earned it. But you're comfortable. You're comfortable enough. You're comfortable enough and you don't want to be white trash. So you're doing better than your cousins in the trailer park. But you're not doing as good as a Bezos. You're not doing good as founding families. That's why you're not comparing yourself to them. Of course, you're doing better than poverty. Also gets passed on like wealth. Okay, poverty is just as generational as wealth is. That's how that works. It's intended to work like that. So that liberal becomes that clincher, right? That progress is a little bit slower because you don't want to disrupt things too much, right? See, what happens is you become middle management too, right? Like back to that org chart in your business. You become the person and the people and the group that polices all of the workers, right? You're not CEO. You're not sitting on the board or anything like that. But you are a manager and you feel super special because you're doing so much better, babe, than the other people below you. And that needs to be completely and utterly dismantled. So, white comfort makes cosmetic changes feel like justice, diversity statements, listening sessions, symbolic gestures. But real liberation goes deeper. It creates structural shifts, power redistribution, and cultural transformation. The reflection for that one is how do I discern between genuine healing and performative reconciliation, right? And I'm going to tell you, hint, is you're going to have to grieve. You're going to have to grieve that fuck how you treated Black people. How have you treated your cousin? How have you treated your poor family? How have you treated your wealthy family? How have you treated those who are afraid to leave their abusive situation? Right. Be it if it's a MAGA family member. And I hate even fucking using the term MAGA because most people are voting on two or three issues. You know what I'm saying? It's like, obviously, there's some people that are just like so full of hate. They just are. And that just is what it is. But how are you dealing with these folks? What are you doing? Where's the reconciliation? Where's the middle ground? For y'all, we don't owe anybody anything. Let me be very clear. This is not like, well, if we are. Nope, not my uncle. And I mean, me specifically, I do talk about my family who actually are back to Blue Trump supporters. You know what I don't do? I don't do lazy activism and cancel them because somebody has to deal with them. And who's going to be closer to them? Me, because I'm their family, right? Another Black educator is not going to get through to them the way I can because they don't care. But for me, there's at least a familial connection. It's your job, comfortable or not, right? Again, white comfort gets in the way of that liberation. Got to stop that. The reframe from illusion to transformation, cosmetic change may soothe discomfort, but only systemic change creates liberation, right? So when I was doing this work, and I'll wrap this up because we are definitely over time. When I began this work, I still believe firmly, and people always ask, like, who's your target market? I'm like, white men. I'm like, white women create social change, right? And you guys are so powerful and you need to be more empowering. I get really tired of the disempowering language that you guys have with each other. You cannot be a white witch, divine feminine, empower all of this, but yet you have absolutely no control over your house. That's crazy work. That's crazy work. That's crazy work. I'm not fucking feeding somebody who's oppressing me. No, I shan't. I won't. I will not. Absolutely will not. This is my domain. This is my space, right? So what does that look like? How do you dismantle that? How do you have those conversations, right? Because you have all of the social change. You are empowered to that. And not in this woke ass, I often tell white women, offer white men the same grace Black women offer you. Because white men are the key to systemic change. Because white men are the ones in actual power. And white men are actually influenced by other men. Okay? Half the time, men don't even realize that we exist unless it's in position to please them. Right? So if you are in a position where you are pleasing or could be pleasing to a white man, then that's who you need to be sitting with and offering grace to. Imagine wanting grace or receiving grace from Black people who consistently show up in the midst of the worst horrors ever, and we still show up. Hands open. Come on, sit down. Let's talk about it. Let's break this down. Let me teach you. Let me guide you. That's grace in action. For you to then turn around and hoard that, I'm not going to extend that grace. You should know better. You're terrible. You're a horrible patriarchal misogynist, and you are your men, ma'am. They wouldn't even exist if you decided at any point in history to be aligned with the most marginalized person. They would not exist. They would not exist. You have bred them. You have fed them. You have fucked them. It is your responsibility. And if you want to feel like this all encompassing, power, empowered goddess divine, which you are, then you have to accept that too, right? There has to be that point where we step in and we say, okay, matriarchy that you claim that you want back looks like it's circular, right? Matriarchy is cyclical. We're not trying to recreate the patriarchy. The patriarchy is a pyramid scheme, right? It has hierarchies. We don't want the patriarchy in pink. We want a cyclical matriarchy. And what that looks like is children first, right? This work that I'm doing is so my children have a better life, right? Your children, our children collectively. And hopefully they will do the work for that too. But it has to be child-centered because we're all going to be dead. I don't care about changing me, mom, papa's feelings. They're going to die. Rest well or not. I do care about talking to my children, right? I do care about the home that we are creating and the conversations that we are having. So then they could start having those other conversations. And you are creating safe spaces so other families can come into it, right? So let's say if you're having a book club, right? And find something for your husband to also be involved with. Hey, I was thinking, I learned this and I was wondering, did you know? If you notice, I often include white men. The other day on my Facebook, I was so pissed off with the 2A conversation, and I'll wrap it up after this. I'm gonna land my plane. Um, you know, people come into my comment section. I'm very public on Facebook, and it's like my living room. And people come into my comment section and they make these assumptions of me, right? Like that I'm liberal, I'm anti-gun, and I'm like, laughs in AK, what? No, I fully believe in being armed, but let's be clear: 2A did not arm me. 14th Amendment did. Okay, you know who 2A armed? Not white women, not poor white men, wealthy, good Christian, property owning white men is the only people that are actually legally protected by 2A. Okay? That's who's protected. When you go, and I'll put that in there too, because I wrote a list of when white women were able to carry, and it's all 14th Amendment. Thank a Black person. If you are armed and you are not a rich white man, thank Black people. Okay? Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, white women, poor white men. If you are armed today, thank a Black person for that 14th Amendment. Okay? Black people have been out here, necks on the line since the beginning, dying, being killed for their ideologies. The irony and the pun that's intended there. Killed for other people to benefit. We've never just been about, okay, well, we just want it for us. No, we want actual liberation. If he could be armed, me too, all of us. Why are they not armed either? Stand by. Da-da-da, da-da-da. I try to tell people this and they do not listen. It's so frustrating. Yeah, it's absolutely frustrating. Keep saying it. I'll be, oof, I came in at the right time. Well, I'm going to have a replay so you can watch it all. Da-da-da. So yeah, even those sorts of things, right? So when now we're talking about like extend that, right? Have that conversation. Like, oh, I just can't get through to him, like he's a MAGA gun Tony. Okay, me too. Not MAGA, but I don't but I also support there's various people out here that believe in being armed. Have that conversation with white men. Okay, baby, but did you know that your poor white ass would not even be able to be armed if it weren't for the 14th Amendment? Like the only reason, and it goes right back full circle to because somebody's doing worse than the only reason white poor men became armed. Guess what? Guess why? You'll never guess. Do you think it's because white men that were wealthy thought of you as equals? They did not want to arm poor white men because they would uprise against those wealthy white men, right? Like, absolutely not. We're not giving these poor fucks. These schmucks are out here working. They work for us. We're not arming them. They're going to come for us. We are the tyrannical government. We have them as indentured servants. You think that indentured, since the Irish were slaves too, which is indentured servitude. You think that they were arming their slaves, their Irish slaves? You think that? You think that? You think that? No, because you were the wealthy, rich, tyrannical government. So they did not arm poor white men. What happened is when they were like, ooh, we can go to Bacon's Rebellion. And when the Irish and the Africans were like, fuck this, we're going to rebel. And the wealthy white plantation owners were like, oh shit, we need to figure out a division. And you know what they did? They created the police force. They gave the little poor whites a badge and a horsey and a gun and said, catch them. There you go. That's how you got your rights, poor white people, and not white women. That's how poor white men got their rights because white women were also not considered full citizens. So again, think a Black person. Okay? So when we're thinking about all of this, round this all up, the work that needs to be done is getting deeply uncomfortable, having that conversation with people, bringing them into the fold so they feel safe to leave the comfort of what they've known for generations. This is me calling out white people to do this work. I'm not telling Black people to do a damn thing, but, survive. Right, good. Which is what we've always been doing. But that race war is internal, white body people. Okay? It is internal. And you guys have got to do that work and start breaking it down because it's about to get wildly unsafe. Okay? Obviously, with the Black, folks, as soon as Charlie Kirk was killed, HBCUs were threatened and this and the other thing. But they're coming for you. They're not, well, we'll just be casualties of the war, unfortunately. And that's what we have always been. But I need you guys to really sit down and think about how you're going to help your people get out of the birth canal of alt-right whiteness. Abby says, how are we going to expand our comfort zones if we stay comfy? Sure enough, can't, baby. Sure enough, can't. And I realize that this is intense. So here we go. Let's round up these 3 talking points. 1, comfort protects systems, not people. 2, liberation demands disruption. 3, comfort creates illusions of progress. Okay. I will be tossing out Fridays, Friday with Friends, because Celtic Ginger's here. And this one today. And I just want you to just take deep breaths, drink some water, move your body, and come up with a plan, right? Maybe I'll try to create one, but treat it like a DV situation. You trying to get your white friends and families out of the alt-right pipeline is an absolute DV situation. Okay. It's what they know, it's what they understand, and what they believe will keep them safe because for thousands of years, it actually has worked. They're not wrong. You know what I'm saying? They're not wrong. But it's safe from who and what they assume, because y'all are not safe from each other. Okay. White on white crime. And this is not trying to be tongue in cheek based on, the statement of black on black crime. I'm being realistic here. The crime against white bodies against white bodies for the past thousands of years. Thousands. You are talking about stringing people up on pikes. I mean, all of the people who are like, we are the granddaughters of the witches you couldn't burn. That's white on white violence. A Black person ain't never walked into a town and was like, burn this motherfucker. What? Put them, oh, what? She could cook soup? That's a witch. Burn her. Think about it from that point. Yes, white on white crime historically. I think it was Queen Mary used to put pregnant white women on pikes in front of her castle. Yeah, gotta really unpack it all, sit with that grief, get really uncomfortable, and figure out how to save other white people. In saving those white people, or at least in creating intentional community, right, where you are doing that work and dismantling that work, you will make others safe. Okay? You will make others safe because what we are not safe from, and I do mean the global majority, are white people. Okay. And what white people can't do is all of a sudden try to call it community now that the shit has hit the fan. Oh, well, what do you mean? We all must work together. We all should have been working together. You guys forgot that. And this is not out of punishment. This is out of realization and accountability. Yeah, we do. We've been telling you that. I'm sorry that you're just now realizing that. So before we could let you in spaces where you could be safe, we need to see you actually doing the fucking work and not trying to just simply reap the benefits of community. We need to see you doing community. We need to see you disrupting these systems within. Okay? Habia says the Klan was marching in Charlottesville in 2017, y'all. Yeah. And again, I task white body people, please look up what the Klan was doing to white people. We know what they were doing to black people. And if you're just finding that out, I don't know what to tell you. But focus on what they were doing to white people. I want you to really take a historical look at what white on white violence looks like, because that is what we are all going to step into. And unfortunately, we are just, we inherit all of the backlash of that. Because again, it's easy to think that you're doing good. I'm doing much better, infinite. Actually, I'm a fucking Bezos to the person living underneath the bridge. But that's not my comparative point. Because again, if you need to compare yourself to a person that's doing worse, then you 100% are invested in their oppression. There you go. I love you guys. Again, move your body, drink water, deep breath, because this is all about to get really intense. Okay. And I want us to come back here and continue to do the work. I will be live again on Wednesday and Friday. Wednesday and Friday are for paid subscribers, just FYI. It's a hard read, but important. I know, right? I feel like, I don't like to be so, but it's true. Tina says, thank you for your time today. It's my pleasure. Thank you for lending me your time today, right? Like, because this is how we do this work, is when we all show up together. So I will run this replay and Fridays back, and those are open. And that's about it. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for continuously showing up. Thank you for sitting with it when it's comfortable, when it's uncomfortable, and showing up and doing the work anyway. That is super important to me, and that is a huge step that I do not take lightly. I have been doing this for some years now. Some of you have been with me for some years now, and I know how uncomfortable it is. So I want you to congratulate yourself for consistently showing up, even when it feels yucky. All right. I'm out of here. I need coffee. Okay. Because it's coffee time. Bye.